Let's be honest, Chelsea have had a strange transfer strategy. There's been a real obsession with just going for youngsters.
16? At a push 17? 16?
Avoiding players with more experience, or perhaps more acclimatised to the Premier League. And naturally there's some concern amongst the Chelsea fan base because every transfer we're seeing is essentially just a kid. So we're going to be going through who Chelsea should sign the rest of this window, or perhaps who they shouldn't sign the rest of this window. And I've picked out a few names that I really think address problems Chelsea have seen constantly throughout pre-season and last season. Gaping holes in the squad, essentially. Hit like and subscribe or Chelsea will sign your kids. Now we're going to be ranking them with this. We've got must sign to player we should sign. We've got decent, so it'd be a decent signing. We've got bit risky, because this one comes with a bit of risk. It's a bit spicy. It's a bit, I don't know about that one. And then we have definitely not. So, you know, another Lukaku. Now, Chelsea last season defensively were a mess. It was our worst defensive record in a Premier League season, letting in the most amount of goals. And this pre-season, it hasn't exactly looked safe. We're leaking goals, mainly from people getting in behind and from individual errors at the back in terms of build-up. So we need players who are going to be good in build-up. They tick that box. And they could play in a high line, covering the channels. So, you know, I've put my scouting hat on. And the first person we're going to be looking at today is Ousmane Diomande from Sporting Lisbon. Now, he ticks every single one of those boxes. And more important than that, he's actually right-sided. Now, Chelsea on the left-hand side, they have Badiashile, who has really been putting the bad into Badiashile, not sold on him. But Levi Colwill is someone that Chelsea will be looking to in the future. Obviously, a Cobham homegrown boy, very successful in his time at Brighton. Can be very good in build-up. I know he's had his errors. I know he hasn't had the easiest start at Chelsea, often playing at left-back last season under Poch. But I feel like the right side is what we really need to attack, because Wesley Fofana, will he be the same guy that we saw at Leicester? It's been a while. It's been a lot of knee injuries since. And Disasi, for me, as much as I like him as a character, he's not someone that you can really trust in a high line or even definitely in build-up. But Ousmane Diomande certainly is at Sporting Lisbon, excelled under Ruben Amorim, and I think that he genuinely is a must-sign for Chelsea. I know people might think, oh, that's a bit rogue, it's someone from the Portuguese League. A lot of Portuguese League signings do have a great success record in England. They adapt very well. And this is someone that really covers all bases in terms of something Chelsea need. A gaping hole within the squad, a gaping hole within the system. Chelsea need players that are able to play a bit higher up the pitch, that are able to be useful within build-up, that you're not going to feel like they're going to make errors and cost goals and chances. He could be genuinely one of those transformative signings that you've seen with Arsenal with William Saliba, you've seen with Liverpool with Virgil van Dijk. Transforming your centre-backs as a back line is a must. And Chelsea at fullback don't have so much an issue. I'm not looking at fullbacks here. I'm not looking at left-backs. I'm quite comfortable with Marco Cucurella there, genuinely. And even if you need Gusto to invert, we've seen bits and pieces of that. Reece James and Gusto at the right. Despite Reece's injuries, we don't mind because we know how good Gusto is. For me, it's those centre-backs. They are a worry. And if I were to attack one side of it, I would go with the right side, and I think that he could be that guy. Next up, we have a player Chelsea are very much linked to, and that is Victor Osimhen. Now, Victor Osimhen obviously would be a large transfer fee, and that seems to be the stumbling block if Chelsea were to look at Victor Osimhen. They're more interested in kids.
What?
However, he is someone that guarantees you goals, and that's something else Chelsea have maybe not lacked so much in terms of goal volume. We score goals, that's not a problem so much. It's the fact we don't finish our dinner, perhaps to the same degree as other teams, other players. We have players like Jackson, who I really like as a striker. I think he ticks almost every box, bar one, and that is being a clinical finisher. Nicholas Jackson doesn't strike the ball properly. When you watch him, he's someone that he links play great, he runs the channels great, he holds it up well, he links up well. But would you back him in a 1v1 if your life was at stake and you had one man running through goal? You wouldn't pick Nicholas Jackson, let's be honest. But I think someone who's not just an alternative, but someone that could coexist with Nicholas Jackson, because for me, Nicholas Jackson can also excel off the left wing. Like, he is a very multifaceted player, and these two could genuinely work in a system together. It's not something that's this or that. It's both or this or that, which is a nice predicament to be in. The wages are a big one. Doesn't supposedly want to go on loan, obviously, despite the fact we'd maybe have like a buy clause of some sort. But he's goals, and he's a transformative one. For me, Chelsea's left wing does worry me in the fact that Sterling and Mudryk, the jury's out on both of them. They both have very big years coming up in their Chelsea careers anyway, in regards to not just nailing down a spot, but also nailing down the confidence from the fans, manager, club, that they are those guys. And I think Nicholas Jackson can kind of fill in there. I really do. I think if you sign a striker and you had Jackson as your left wing option as well as your striker option, I kind of think you're laughing with that. So for me, a striker would be brilliant, or a left winger. It's like this or that. Victor Osimhen, however, I think it's that transformative. I think you do it. I really think you pulled the plug. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you said, this would be Lukaku, this could be a Lukaku. Syria, I get the worry in that regard, but I think in terms of a guy who's just good in the box, physical, can hold up the ball well, can show back to goal strength, which is something, Drogba excelled at. These are things Victor Osimhen would give us. And not just that, both these players you would actually think would be keen on signing for Chelsea. You have Diomande from Ivory Coast, Drogba's home nation, obviously going to have a little bit of favouritism towards the Chelsea, naturally. And Victor Osimhen is a known Chelsea fan growing up. So, yeah, for me, these are two players that you could allure with the fact that they would want to play here. And not just that, they are players that fill holes in the squad we do need to address. Next up, we have Anthony Gordon. We were linked with Anthony Gordon a few years ago, and I was very much against that transfer, as I think probably 99.9% of the fan base were. Wow, I mean, what a career trajectory the guy's having at Newcastle. And the reason I've put him in here is not so much because I think it will happen or anything like that. It's more the fact that he's being linked with Liverpool, and obviously he is, he's a Scouser. He might want to play for the club he grew up supporting. I know he was at Everton, but Liverpool's obviously his club. But it shows that maybe Newcastle are open to business. And Anthony Gordon, for me, is someone who gives you goals. I don't think we so much need necessarily a winger that's just a creative one. I think we do need a guy who, can get in the box and grab goals. And Anthony Gordon does do just that. And if Newcastle were open to business, I think this would be a very decent buy. I don't think it's a must buy. These guys, I think for me, when I picture the profiles Chelsea lack and I picture what they could do with players already existing at Chelsea, I think they'd be perfect. Anthony Gordon would be maybe close to that, but for me, he'd be in the decent category. Next up, we have Nico Williams. Now, Nico Williams has a release clause, but is on fat wages because Bilbao, obviously, they promote from within. They kind of operate on an only homegrown profit, but none of the profit in general. They don't sell many players. They kind of work in reverse to how Chelsea operate as a business. And Nico Williams is someone that a lot of clubs are looking at. Obviously, he had an amazing Euros, exciting left winger, can get goals, not the biggest goal volume. And for that reason, I am putting him in decent. Like the guy has pace, he can get behind, but he also had some games for Spain where Yamal was definitely Spain's more influential winger, and Yamal is an absolute superstar, obviously. That's not a knock. My point is more, is Nico Williams a bit like someone in Rafa Leao, where I rate them, but do I think they'd answer all Chelsea's problems? Not so much. I don't think these two answer the problems in the same way that these two would. So for that reason, they would go in the decent category. I get the wage is a stumbling block because Chelsea are trying to have players on lower wages, despite the fact that we've spent extortionate amounts of money. What people seem to kind of look past is, in general, the higher earners were pre-existing contracts before, or from the first summer where, Sterling was bought, Koulibaly was bought, Cucurella was bought, etc. Since then, the wages have been a bit lower, and Nico Williams, he'd have to drop his wage realistically. Now we have Ivan Toney. Now, Ivan Toney, attitude-wise, a lot of people would say a bit risky. Outwardly spoken about not really being bothered about staying at Brentford very long, very much flirting with other clubs, but no clubs flirting back at the moment. Now, I'm a big fan of Toney. I think he's an excellent striker that sort of ticks every box in terms of giving you a different outlet. And perhaps that's to his detriment in terms of a move like this, because Ivan Toney is someone that you can give as an alternative to hold the ball up, go long if you need to. Enzo Maresca very much has a strong way of playing that is plan A or no plan at all, and that is building out from the back. It's not just lumping it long. Whereas I kind of want a bit of that. I want to be able to change up scenarios. I want to be able to have an Ivan Toney that can do that if we need to, that has an out ball. Someone that can hold the ball up, bring players into play as we get up the pitch, not necessarily just getting up the pitch via out from the back. However, that is kind of against the manager. So I don't know. I think it's a bit risky in terms of what Chelsea are trying to do. For me, I think he'd be brilliant because I don't think the price would be bad. Anywhere near as bad as a Victor Osimhen, for example. I do think Toney gets you goals and different kinds of goals. Like people think he's just some target man. This guy can score goals from range, from free kicks, can get tap-ins, headers. Like I said, hold-up play is good, link-up play is good, his passing's good. He ticks every box. He's genuinely a 7 out of 10 across the board for me, Ivan Toney. The only thing is his attitude that people would question, and the fact that he wouldn't quite suit our squad and what we're trying to do. Playing in a team that's against low blocks as opposed to playing within one most of the time with Brentford. It is a bit different in that regard, but I do think he could easily make the step up. That's how highly I rate the guy. So for me, he'd kind of be in here, but it is a bit of... It's because of Chelsea, and because of what we're trying to do, I'd say it's a bit of a risky one. I would do it. I would do it. I would take the risk. But I'm also trying to be a bit fair and evaluating everything at play here, not just, my own opinion. Obviously, my own opinion is going to carry the majority of this list, naturally. But, yeah, for me, we'll put him in there for now. We have Zabiani. Similar mould to Diomande in terms of, I'm looking at centre-backs, guys. I'm doing the scouting here. Winstanley, Stuart, what are you doing? Because I'm seeing this guy at Bournemouth, had a very good season. He's a defender, again, who could play on a high line, can be decent out from the back. And those are two gaping holes in what we need as centre-backs for this system to work. So I think he could excel at Chelsea. Do I think he's as good as someone like Diomande? No, I don't think he's got quite the level of physicality, but I do think he'd be a really decent signing. And I'd actually put him top of decent. I genuinely think for Chelsea, this would be a really good buy. I know people will look at it and go, oh, it's a Bournemouth player, it's whatever. Well, Bournemouth have been a decent side, and we're looking at individuals here, not teams. We're not buying the Bournemouth team. For me, in terms of what Chelsea lack and what Chelsea are trying to do, he does tick those boxes. As does, to some degree, free agent Mats Hummels. Now, look, Chelsea are not going to sign him because Chelsea do not want a 30-odd-year-old. But this, for me, could be a potential Thiago Silva. Not quite Thiago. Mats Hummels isn't quite Thiago, but he is someone that is comfortable on the ball. He has played in high lines throughout his career in general in the Bundesliga. That's very much widespread there. Obviously, as he's got older, it's a bit more tough to do. But he has played in it, so he's more used to it than some. I do think that's a bit risky because obviously there will be a physical decline with him. However, I still think he was at a high level for Dortmund last season, obviously winning the Champions League and being a big part of that, scoring against PSG. But obviously it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, is it? We're not going to do that. They're looking at this going, definitely not. Definitely not, buddies. He's way older than 18.
Guess what I have sitting in my backyard? A trampoline? Better. Better. Well, what, Cartman? 33 aborted fetuses.
But for me, I think as a free agent, it'd be a decent bit of business. Like I said, he kind of suits things that we're lacking and also gives you a bit of that leadership. The guy's been a captain. The guy's got the experience. The younger ones, it's not a bad influence to have around at the dressing room. I think Mats Hummels on a free would signal a nice bit of business for Chelsea. Would it be a Koulibaly? Would it be a Silva? I think somewhere in the middle. I think it would be somewhere in the middle, and that for me would line decent. And we have Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish was linked to Chelsea early in the transfer window, and City obviously signing wingers. They've sold Alvarez, so they're probably not open to a sale, but I more wanted to make a point with Jack Grealish in that he is a winger who retains possession. He wins you fouls. He gets you higher up the pitch in that regard, but he doesn't give you the goal output. We need the goal output. So for me, this would not just be a bit risky. This would be a definitely not. But it highlights something that Chelsea do need in a profile like Grealish, and that's a winger who can keep hold of the ball, not at all times going at 110 miles an hour and losing it and getting turned over and countered, because that's when our high line is exposed. With someone like Grealish, you retain that possession, you stay more camped on the edge of the opponent's box. And that is a lot of what Enzo Maresca's football is kind of about. It's similar to Pep in that regard. So I could see the value in someone like that. I don't think it's quite what we need. We need someone who can tick more boxes in terms of a bit more goal threat than Grealish. It's not Villa Grealish, and that's a sad reality. I thought that guy was a wicked player to watch. But at City, it's become more about ball retention, more about winning those fouls, and he definitely does do that to a good degree. I just don't think Chelsea, with the wages, the fee, the lack of guaranteed goals, it would have to be a definitely not, despite the fact we were linked with him. Now, this one is straight out the Clear Lake strategy. They're going to be hiring me, guys. They're genuinely going to be hiring me. They're going to be like, where did you find this guy? Charlie Hughes at Wigan. So League One, young. That's the big one. He's only 20 years of age. But again, a right-sided centre-back is more comfortable in a higher line and playing out from the back. He looks very talented youngster. Do I think he's ready? Do I think Chelsea should sign him? No. But I've done my homework, and this is someone that I think profile-wise would actually suit Chelsea and very much suits their modus operandi of business. I'm looking at your Diamandes, guys. Trust me, I'm like you. I'm thinking, no, get more in the now. He's still young, by the way. They still fit their policy. But Charlie Hughes is someone that that's just more of a Clear Lake signing, isn't it? I'd put this in bit risky. I wouldn't put it in definitely not, even though he is a League One player. But this guy's 20 years of age, and he is going to get better, and he does tick the boxes that Chelsea do need to address. He does fit into what they want. I reckon they see him. Do you know what? If I came to them with this list, they'd probably have it in reverse. They'd be like, this guy get him in the must-sign category, buddies. But for me, yeah, he'd be a bit risky, obviously, just because the level he's playing at. Does it acclimatise to this league quickly? Probably not. It probably takes a while, and we keep signing project players. We don't need more project players, we need more in the now players, even if they're young. There are young players who are great in the now. It doesn't always have to be they're great in the future. We're not all just playing FM, guys. And lastly, we have the Messi family. Now, Messi family for me going must sign. I think that's a no-brainer, isn't it, Clear Lake? You're signing all these youngsters, you're signing all these kids. Have you not just thought, let's just sign all the Messi family? Let's speak to Lionel and go, look, you're a bit old, but we'd have all your kids. We'd have all your kids, all the youngsters. They've got Messi's genes. They can't be that bad. They've got the GOAT's genes, and for that reason, they're going in must sign. And they're a must sign for me. This isn't even just Clear Lake. This works within the Clear Lake strategy, but more important than that, I would like kids with Messi's. I mean, I genuinely, if I ever had kids and they had Messi's genes, I'd be confused. I'd be very confused. But I'd probably allow it. I think it'd be one of those few exceptions that you're like, they might not be mine anymore, but they've got Messi's genes.
What are you talking about?
And those genes are good enough in football for me. So, yeah, the Messi family, they go in the must-sign category. Who else do you guys think we should have our eyes on this summer in terms of business that needs to be done pretty soon? The Premier League starts in literally a week and a bit. Barely even that. So, we need to have our eyes peeled, and then throughout the rest of the window, because there are gaping holes. We could do with, I know, bless him, Amorodion signed yesterday. He is a striker that in the future could be great. I hope he is. I really hope he is. I really like Jackson, but what Jackson lacks is that being clinical in front of goal. And whether that's from out wide, whether that's from in the middle, something we need to address. And I think in the middle works because you could have Jackson still in the team, and that kind of covers your left wing problem as well as your striker problem. So Victor Osimhen, for me, it's a real transformative signing. So is Diomande, and so are the Messi kids. The rest of them, I think it's fair. These are kind of, just a tier below where you'd still be gassed. Don't get it twisted. You'd still be very excited, particularly with, I think, these guys, they're a bit more names. But I still think Zabiani would be a good one. These, I really like Tony, but I can see the risk in it. Charlie Hughes, very Clear Lake. They'd probably have him up here. He's probably top of must sign for Clear Lake. And Grealish was more for me to express a point in terms of someone we've been linked to, because we're not really seeing a lot of links. Something that seemed to be, it's going to be a massive summer at Chelsea. I don't feel like it's been a massive summer. I feel like there's been some sales and there'll be more of those. I wonder if those sales will lead to more signings. But in terms of when I look at how we ended the season, I look at the gaping holes to address and think we could immediately leap to being a real secure top four club if you looked at that centre-back and really strengthened, not just Tosin, like you really strengthened it, or if you looked at the lack of being clinical up top and you really strengthened it. Those would transfer Chelsea into a different stratosphere. I don't think we've done that yet. So yeah, let me know if you guys think there's any additional players you'd maybe like me to go over in another video. But hopefully they're listening. Hopefully they listen to me. But yeah, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe. All that stuff helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it. Up the Chelsea.